Ladies and gents, welcome back to another Engineers podcast. Today I'm joined by Nad, who's founding designer at Lovable. Lovable, for those of you who don't know, have just done some monster figures in under 2 months. Their catchphrase, building the last piece of software, embodies what they're trying to build. Started off with an open source project called GPT Engineer in 2023 and roll the clock forwards to now. They're reporting some incredible numbers. They're also known as the AI engineer. And Nad and I are going to be talking about rebuilding their product, crafting the right team, some of the engineering challenges inside of Lovable, and also the AI tech stack or mentality, plus loads more that we're going to cover. So stay tuned for this one. Nad, legend, thanks for coming to join us.
Pleasure to be here. And pleasure to chat.
Give us your piece on Lovable.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess a kind of elevator pitch for Lovable would be that we are building a personal AI software engineer, and really just want to underline the word personal there. And so the way that we see it, less than 1% of the world today can create and maintain full stack software. And so while a lot of other code gen tools are building for engineers and trying to empower, existing engineers to be more productive, we're trying to focus on that other 99%. And so, like, how do we get the other 99 point something percent of the world to be able to create software that they not only like but also love? And so, yeah, that's a little bit about us.
It's nuts, really. After our conversation, I went away talking to people about it in the office, telling friends back at home. I was like, go and ask it to build a coffee shop website, and it just spins something up in 3-4 minutes. It's incredible. It is incredible what you guys have done.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely in some ways standing on the shoulders of giants in terms of the foundation models have just got so much better, and in some ways, enabled Lovable to exist like as a product. But it's just crazy seeing like what people can create with it, and it feels like every couple of weeks, even like people surprise us with them being able to do something that we just didn't even imagine that would have been possible.
Yeah, and every couple of weeks, your numbers are changing. We're not really going to focus too much on the numbers today, but just talk to us about how staggering some of those numbers are, by the way.
Yeah, so we try not to index on them too much because they can also be quite distracting. But maybe one of the headline ones is we got to 10 million ARR, I think 60 days after launch, like thereabouts. And we're adding like multiple millions in revenue per week with quite a small team. And it was a pretty dramatic uplift. And so these classic, we talk about like hockey stick graphs a lot in tech of like going along and then suddenly they jump up. Whereas ours was more like, I don't know, like it's a really bad metaphor, but like the descent of a cliff. It was more just like up rather than up and to the right. But yeah, like just very, I think we've captured people in a way that is pretty rare. And as far as we know, we are Europe's fastest growing startup ever by revenue.
Yeah, it is nuts. But I think when I'm seeing all of the crazy stuff on LinkedIn at the moment about Lovable, gives me that like little buzz and excitement inside of me because I'm chatting to you guys about what you're doing. But I think there's such an interesting part that happened before all of this, before the last 2 or 3 months, and it's starting a project in 2023, and it's rebuilding the product 3 times, taking 12 months to craft a team. Talk to us about that journey, what that looked like, and even how you joined the business, and almost like work your way to now, if you can.
Yeah, sure. So maybe I'll start with myself briefly, actually, and then I can easily kind of add myself to the Lovable journey as a part of it. So I've been building websites since I was a kid. So since like back in the day, when we had like webmasters rather than, specific kind of functional job titles and so on and so forth. And so kind of out of that, I sort of fell into design. And so my background is like a mixture of design and product management, but I've always built my own front end as well. Would never call myself an engineer, but I know enough to be dangerous. And so have always been like either like building things that are technically ambitious or also building the kind of teams behind those technically ambitious things. And so like that's a little bit on me, and then so zooming back out to Lovable. So Anton, one of our founders, roughly 2023, he was CTO of his own startup that went through YC called Depict, that was pretty famous in the Nordics. AI-based startup using machine learning for recommendations. He could kind of see LLMs progressing consistently. He'd been working in ML for several years. And at the time in 2023, ChatGPT had exploded. The world was having this kind of AI moment, or AI revelation, rather. But he felt that when he was talking to engineers, they just weren't being imaginative enough. And so he was talking to people on his team, he was talking to people at other companies where he felt that we could be using LLMs for so much more. And he was getting a lot of pushback from people where they were basically saying, hang on a second, the models aren't good enough, like they fail sometimes, like classic reasons to not believe. And so he basically funneled his frustration at other people's skepticism into an open source project called GPT Engineer. And so he built kind of basic command line tool where you could basically give it your API keys, and then that would let you talk to a foundation model. And you could specify things that you wanted to be built. And then anytime the AI was unsure what you wanted, you just ask the question back. Anytime it was sure, it would then make a change or make an edit to your project. And so pretty conversational, command line based AI builder, and like essentially the very, very, very first version of Lovable. This was 2023. He built that, tweeted about it. That went completely viral and grew into one of the most popular code gen projects on GitHub. And so I think now it's got about 52,000 stars or something like that, if memory serves. And so that was the kind of germ of Lovable. It was this open source tool to essentially create a playground for AI to be able to create software with people. And so based on the success of that, he actually left his company. And so he figured out like, okay, I think this is what I want to make my life's work, or at least my, focus for the upcoming, years to decades. Found a successor for himself at his own startup, and then raised a round in order to found his co-founder, Fabian, and then raised a round to put together the initial team in order to build what then became Lovable. And so that journey was essentially putting together the initial team, and then that initial team, of which I've been fortunate enough to be a part of, then putting together multiple iterations of the product.
What a journey. And what did those multiple iterations look like, if you're able to share just a little bit of context?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I didn't really appreciate until I worked on AI products in depth is that you can't really separate the models themselves from the context they have. And also you can't separate those things from the user problems either. And so if you took the same product with a slightly different end user experience, or if you took the same product where you're changing around some of the model context or just one of these components, you end up with a completely different product. And so what we did is we basically made major iterations where we changed all of these things. And so it wasn't a case of like, oh, we think this is suboptimal, we need to change this small part. It was, hang on a second, like people start with nothing, or they start with some idea of something that they want to create, but they're not able to do it. Like, how are we enabling them to do that? There's multiple steps. There's multiple models you can use. You can chain them together in different ways. You build all of your application logic to also, parse and process the output, and so on and so forth. And we found it really difficult to make like step changes in products without making step changes across all of these areas. And so what that meant in practice is we spent about probably about 10 months with a waitlist where we had a landing page. You could put in your email address, and then we could invite people like one by one to be able to use the product. And all we did was we basically kept that waitlist because it meant we could control who had access to the product. And it meant that we could kind of test different major iterations or different major hypotheses across this entire stack with different people and with different versions of the product until we had conviction to ship publicly with general availability.
Love that. And the patience seems like it's a bit of an art for Lovable. Team building took a considerable amount of time, and you're really deliberate around your team building. You're really deliberate around future team building, which we're going to get to. And it's very much a mentality thing, which we're going to talk about a lot more too. Talk to us about the importance of crafting the right team at Lovable, especially in an AI native environment.
Yeah, so we do one thing that I think is a little bit contrarian for compared to more mature teams or some other teams rather, which is we very deliberately hire a lot of generalists. And so generally what we're looking for is more of a kind of founder mentality. And I think most companies, when they say founder mentality, that's code word for like grit or working lots of hours. For us, it's more so that we look for people where they're not limited or inhibited by specializing. And so all of our engineers, we basically, like most of the engineers can carry things end to end from, user insight through to production, like actioning on that insight. Everyone that isn't an engineer, so there's myself, also Christian, who's our product manager, has been an engineer in some capacity before. And so really like we have people that are very multidimensional, extremely cross-functional, and extremely capable, like end to end as generalists. And that was a very deliberate decision, like from the start. And so, yeah, I think the first sort of 5 people, I'd say, were like extremely product minded and engineering minded.
It is contrarian if you were to ask other people to put their 2 cents in. What was the driving factor behind those decisions at such an early stage, do you feel?
So I think there's 2 different major driving factors. Like one is I think so. If we zoom out slightly, and if you sort of think about cross-functional teams, I think as an industry, actually, when Spotify kind of glorified cross-functional teams, we accidentally introduced this overhead where you need, somewhere from 5 to 10 people to be involved in any one decision. And so you have like a cross-functional squad, you have a technical lead within it, all of the stakeholders involved with that internally, as well as externally. And then you've got, then individual management lines, matrix management, leadership, et cetera, et cetera. It's quite difficult to get work done sometimes. And so you go from like, oh, we've had this simple insight and we just want to action it, or we just want to do something. There's like 8 or 9 people that need to be involved in order for that to actually kind of make it through the pipeline, so to speak. And so I think that was a bit of a misstep in general that we kind of need to correct against. And so, part of the reason for us wanting to hire generalists was a bit of a counterbalance to that. The other thing is AI kind of enables median outcomes for everyone in anything. And so if you're smart, you can use AI to achieve like a reasonable outcome in most things that you're doing. And then you just need to rely on your individual nous or other people's nous to go from, say, a 60 or 70% median outcome to a 100%. But that 60 to 70% median outcome is just there for you to use and just to take. And so, yeah, I think those 2 things together, like wanting to counterbalance against, needing multiple people to be involved in absolutely everything, which ultimately impedes velocity. and the fact that AI can enable most people to get to a good outcome on most things.
Yeah, I think most of the companies that I'm seeing, let's say, have been built, sub 18 months. They've got that mentality. That they share the same mentality as how you're trying to build teams at the moment. I'm seeing it as so much more of a common thing that you can actually provide really good generalists an AI tool or tech stack, and we're going to talk about mentality even more, and you can run much leaner teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely agree. I think actually, like new companies. I think in a lot of ways we have this quite easy in that we have a blank canvas and we can be quite deliberate about sort of how to scale up. But I think there's so many open questions about what happens to kind of existing larger teams and like how those will evolve over time. And so I don't envy anyone in like a leadership capacity with like say several dozen to several hundred people under them, because I think there's going to be some pretty wild changes that'll happen in the future.
Yeah, okay. I do too. I do actually think there'll be some pretty considerable changes. That's a conversation for, I'm sure, another day. Um, Tech challenges. We spoke about a number of things offline, and I'd love to understand a bit more about some of the technical challenges that you see day to day inside of Lovable. So, can you break some of those down for us? Because we have discussed it. The intersection between AI and the user is a really interesting space right now, and you're literally on the cutting edge of it. Talk to us about some of those challenges that you see.
Yeah, so if there's one word that I want to almost obnoxiously repeat, it's the word context. So, like what we found to be the highest leverage was to just completely obsess over what context the AI has. And so by context, I mean, everything in its own in the context window of like the model itself, which for us means everything we're tuning the models with. It means the awareness of the project the user is building, but it also means the user's context. And so, users can have lots of different context and lots of different goals as well. So, different context based on, who they are, like what domain knowledge do I have or, I don't have. And different goals being, just, the different things they're trying to achieve. And so, we had to be extremely multifactorial in terms of figuring out like what are all the potential contexts that this entire system could have, and then therefore find the best solution for each individual context. And so the way that we built the system that builds new features is completely different to the system that fixes bugs, for example. And so we've been on this journey, and I don't think we'll ever stop this journey, but we're essentially on this grind of just breaking down kind of general problems into more specific ones, and just constantly trying to find the best context for the AI to be able to perform. And sometimes the best solution is quite technical. It's some applied engineering problem that's like, oh, if we just give the model more context on these kinds of things, it can reason about it this way. Other times it's really, really dumb. It's literally just let's just ask the user more, like about what they're trying to do or what they want, and then that can suddenly unlock the next step.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, context across different AI businesses is really going to vary. Really going to vary. Um, Talk to us about the fun that you're having from a design perspective at Lovable.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like a kid at the moment. So I grew up I grew up making websites for fun on like a cracked copy of Dreamweaver, and I learned HTML from right click view source. And I only realized this now, but I think tech got pretty stale. Like I think we reached this sort of plateau of SaaS where mobile was interesting for a while, especially from a design perspective. Lots of interaction juice to kind of sink your teeth into. But we kind of knew what to expect. And so for the first time, I kind of realized now in sort of, I don't know, 20 something years, it's super exciting. Like there's things that are possible now that just didn't seem possible even, 3 or 4 months ago. And so, yeah, like super energized and just having absolutely loads of fun with it. And that's without even thinking about the stuff that our users are using our AI to actually do for themselves. Like that's the like a whole other frontier.
It's insane, isn't it? Where are you placing bets on where you think future challenges might be, or where we might be going with AI? Like you've hit the nail on the head around the last 3 months, and prior to that, 20 years of not even nothingness. But I can understand where you're going with that. Talk to us about even the next 12 months and what we might be looking at with AI.
So I mean, we have like MCP that's just arrived on the horizon, which is super interesting from an interoperability perspective. So, like AI being able to interoperate with like any application, I think is really, really interesting. I've yet to find the user experience that people actually like for this. So we'll see. And actually, we found a lot of MCP servers to be a little bit inhibiting because you can't always access like the entire application or capabilities of any given application or service. But MCP, I think, is going to be really interesting, and we'll see more and more AI being able to interoperate with each other and with each other's platforms. So that's super exciting. Um, I think I don't know what your take is on agents, but I think there's some bigger user experience challenges around agents than we discuss, like as an industry. Like I understand the bear case for why agents are really really great and why autonomous intelligence is a really really good thing. But at the moment, I'm seeing a lot of challenges around observability where um, I've seen a lot of instances where users deploy agents to do things and they take a long time to do them. And then if they do the wrong thing, people get really, really frustrated. And so I think there's a bit of an unsolved problem over here where we need to figure out like what is sort of observability first user experience for AI agents that might feel a little bit more like a dashboard than say like a chat based interface for an LLM or something like that. But yeah, I think like agents and MCP are probably the two most exciting things that I see like over the next 12 months.
Yeah, interesting. I hear that conversation quite a lot, and a future podcast is around LLMs, if you like, versus agentic architectures or agents. So I'm interested to see that conversation from a flip perspective. But I do hear the same notion as what you're describing at the moment.
Yeah, and I do. I actually think we're going to end up with both, and I think that's okay. I mean, the same way that like communication has multiple forms of medium, in that you could send an SMS or an email, and both of those things work over like a different time horizon, and that's okay. Um, but I think there's a lot of, depending on your use case, there's a lot of work that still needs to happen for agents to be more performant, where you're like happy for them to run off for several hours before coming back to you.
Yeah. Okay. There is a little bit of, I think, paralysis is a good word to use in the market at the moment. It feels where there's so much new technology, people are trying to absorb it, they're trying to deploy it in their day to day, and people are asking one another about, if you like, their tech stack. What are they using and how are they using things? I'd be really keen to understand, if you have a AI tech stack, what is it at Lovable, or share any other insights.
Yeah, so I I'm a bit reluctant to call out specific products or specific platforms or like parts of our architecture. In part because it's always changing, but also like I think people should just figure out like for themselves like what's going to work best for them. But I think where I feel more opinionated and where we do as a team is that we have this philosophy around like what it means to be AI first. And so the way that we see things, we try to apply AI as much as possible to ourselves and to kind of most things that we do in a lot of ways, just in search of more education. And so, everything from marketing to legal to like whatever. And we're just constantly trying to find the limits of AI just to know them and just to learn also from what other companies are doing. And if that's something that you're not doing right now and you're sort of you're building with AI, would just highly recommend that you go you go hard and almost just take the red pill and just use AI and kind of absolutely in as many places as possible, just from a learning perspective.
Love that. Okay. How are you assessing people to be right for Lovable? I understand the founder's mentality, not the grit side, but someone who can think about multiple aspects of the business, etc. How are you actually able to assess, let's just say, technical people in an interview right now?
Yeah, so we do a mixture of our actual interview process. I'd say is slightly more lightweight than the standard, and so we try to index on that a little bit less. But we do paid test work as a part of our process. And so for us, it's like super simple. It's just dating before marriage. And so what we do is we try and carve out anywhere from 2 days minimum. Some people even have done up to 2 weeks where they've been happy to take 2 weeks of vacation from their day job. But we just try and do like as much real world work as possible, and that's been the best thing that we found to screen people.
Yeah, I think that's a great shout. It's a very American thing.
Is it? I
To
never
be,
knew that actually.
yeah, very American thing in terms of trials. I think it's a great idea to learn more about your team, but to learn what someone is like in a real life setting, not just an interview. So a smart idea.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I have some sort of words of caution against it as well, which is that it can be quite consuming. Like it's quite draining. So I don't know if you have any tips for us actually, where even just the onboarding process, it's like it feels like you invest so much time and that you end up essentially going through an entire onboarding with a candidate essentially.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have any best practices or tips and tricks across that dimension.
Put a pin in that. We'll come back to that. I've got one or two ideas.
Okay, awesome.
Um, Talk to us about where you're going to be hiring for Lovable if you are going to be growing the team that much.
Yeah, so we are growing in a very deliberate fashion. And so I think we were about, I don't know, 12 or 13 people when we hit like 10 million ARR. We're now, I haven't counted, but we're less than 20 people
Mhm.
at the moment. And we're only going to be hiring that maybe like one or two people a month, like broadly speaking. This might change, by the way, at any given moment in time. But we're trying to prioritize kind of quality over rather than sort of defaulting to the sort of hyper growth playbook. But where we are hiring is generalist kind of product engineers, so people who can, as we spoke earlier, can kind of work across the whole stack. We're also hiring a design engineer, so if by chance an amazing design engineer is listening to this and wants to, work at the heart of this intersection of AI and the user, give me a shout. And we're also hiring like more on the cross-functional side, like on things like marketing, where so far stuff has been pretty organic, but very tame. I'd say this isn't a case of like post-product market fit, time to scale to 200 people or whatever. It's slow and steady for us.
Yes, the new playbook, isn't it? I think there was like a reveal on LinkedIn over the weekend of like most profitable companies or revenue per employee was actually the title. And it's
Right.
just insane the shift now that's taken place from, you get your product market fit, you raise around, you really go and grow your business. It's different mentality now.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. I don't know if this is like a shared thing, but I think most of the people on the team, we've all had in some shape or form, some kind of negative experience with hypergrowth, where like so just before we go for it, we're kind of challenging ourselves to really validate like how we want to grow the team and be really deliberate about like as we add people. And I think I don't know. I'm trying to reflect on like past companies and past experiences where I think with like good leaders and good managers, it's sort of known that the mythical man month exists, but at the same time, you know you need more people. And I
Yeah,
think especially in a zero interest sort of era, it was a little bit easier to sort of just bias to caution by just over hiring a little bit and just thinking, well, actually, that makes life a little bit easier. Whereas now I think it's more so about having an easier life by doing more with less.
100%. And I think being our native, that feels as if it's within your DNA, especially how you're setting up your own teams, especially what you've built, as a business at its core. So I think it makes sense to do what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah, we're pretty bullish on it. Like I don't see us having like a change of strategy. It might be that we accelerate things slightly. So like we are talking about spinning up some sub teams in specific domain areas, for example. And so it might be that adding one or two people per month. Maybe that turns into, I don't know, 3 or 4 people per month at some point, but nothing like nothing major.
No, nice. Okay. Well, Nad, you've been an absolute legend. For anyone who's on the design side, who's a product engineer, in its most modern sense, a product engineer, have a look at Lovable. Have a look at what the guys and girls are doing. They're doing some amazing stuff. Again, a massive thanks for coming to join us. I do really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, real pleasure. And yeah, let me know if you I forget what the point was, but earlier you said that you wanted to follow up on like one point.
Definitely on the onboarding.
Yeah.
I'll follow up on that. We'll chat offline.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good.
For everyone else, likes, shares, subscribership, all of that good stuff is massively appreciated, and that keeps this little ecosystem buzzing around. So please do show your friends, show colleagues, share what the guys and girls at Lovable are doing. And again, Nad, massive thanks for coming to join us. Best of luck with the business, and we'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, real pleasure. Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode. Massively appreciate you listening and checking in with us. If you want to find out more about us and what we're doing, please check us out on social media. What we're trying to do at Engineers is build a community to drive knowledge sharing and experiences. On Twitter, we can be found Engineers.io. It's no_. We've also got a website, which is engineers.io. These links will all be posted in the description. Any feedback and comments are massively appreciated. We're always looking to improve on where we can. Thanks, guys.